Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, welcome back to this 4th week lecture, and this is the 4th lecture, lecture 19, and here we are going to talk about team performance. So far we have been discussing about individual performance, but in addition to that we are also going to manage the performance of the team. And when it comes to managing team performance, we have to see that how we are going to take up those steps which we have taken up for managing individual performance. Now, why we need to discuss team performance? Because the characteristics of a team differs from an individual. In case of individual, what happens? He has certain goals and objectives. Okay. He has a reporting officer. He is going to manage his performance, and that is going to be monitored and supervised by his immediate supervisor. But in case of team performance, what happens? That there are a number of individuals, maybe 5 to 7, who are similarly placed, right. They have a common goal and objective, and everybody is supposed to contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization. So, in a team you are also going to measure the relative contribution of the individual and the contribution of the team as a whole. Say for example, when we are talking about team performance, there is an individual, say I, and he is being managed. So far as his performance is concerned, there is a supervisor, there could be a subordinate, there could be peers, there could be customers, okay, and then you are going to involve some of them in the evaluation process. But in team, what happens? You have a number of people who are similarly placed, right. So, these are 5 people who are going to work in a team. So, all these people are going to be a part of the team. So, all of them are going to be interrelated with this. In that way, it is going to be something like this, right. So, you see that everyone is connected with everybody, right. Okay. So, here the kind of synergy that is produced is much better, right, and you are, when you are talking about team performance, you have to see that how it is going to be managed using the same processes, or you are going to adopt a different process. And it is very important to see that when you are talking about team performance, you look into the processes, and the processes are more or less same, that you are going to have certain prerequisites, you plan about team performance, and then accordingly you proceed. So, team is something different compared to individual, and that is why when we are talking about team performance, we have to see that how we are going to manage team performance. So, team has a different kind of characteristics, everything is shared including leadership, they have a common norms, and with this assumption we proceed further to discuss about team performance. Now, when I am talking about team performance, what is the target? Both how individual has performed in the team, what is his contribution to the team, and the performance of the entire team. So, everything is to be considered when you are going to look at performance management system for the team. So, you are considering the individuals and his relative contribution as well as the entire performance of the team. So, when it comes to developing a performance management system for measuring team performance, looking at team and its performance. So, you are going to design a system which is going to help facilitate this process for effective performance, right. And if you are not going to implement it properly, then it will have bad consequences. So, there could be a lot of dangers, because some of them may not be working, some of them are not performing at all. So, at the end of what happens, only few people are doing the job, and everybody is getting the share or the credit for performance. So, there are a lot of issues related to group dynamics or team building which might come up. Okay. So, we need to ensure that team is really working as a team and it is able to perform well. Otherwise, what will happen? You are not going to meet the targets and objectives of the team. right. So, when we are going to consider team performance, we have to see that how it can be improved, what are the things that need to be looked into, right. So, if you are having a team, basically it is designated with a particular task or target, right. It means the team is supposed to meet certain standards, certain targets which has been given to you, right. Now, as a team it is responsible for achieving those targets and goals, right. But it should not be linked or with other organizational processes and requirements, because teams are mostly working independently, though they might be supervised by senior people, right. But team as such has been given a task, like for example, if there is a project team who is working, right, on a particular project. So, the team is responsible for the execution of the project, starting with start, execution, implemented and successfully completing the project, right. So, the team is responsible for that, and so the team has to look into that and should not be look into other factors. Now, the another thing is that you have to see that who are going to be part of the team. Okay. So, make sure that you are going to have a heterogeneous team, right. Similarly, you make sure that people with different functional expertise are part of the team, and that suggests that yes, the team is properly designed, and then it is getting all the resources and support which is required by the team to perform his job effectively. So, make sure that when you are going to talk about team performance, you focus on team design, that is make sure that the norms are followed, okay, the group is cohesive, because that is a very important factor we will talk about. You also need to consider that team is really working as a team, okay, and everyone is going to possibly contribute to the best of his knowledge and skill. And that is why when you are going to form a team, you ensure that it is more heterogeneous in nature, right. People with different functional areas are going to be a part of the team, right. And then team members should also get feedback on how well they are doing, okay, not only on how well they are doing in terms of results, but also what are the processes which is being adopted by the team in order to perform, right. So, that team knows how well they are progressing and what they need to do in order to control the activities. Now, what are the challenges that is faced by team when it comes to performance, right. Sometimes it is very difficult to find out who has contributed how much, right, because we cannot expect everyone to contribute equally. So, sometimes it becomes a problem that how we are going to assess or measure the relative contribution of the people. Suppose there is a team of 5 people and everyone is supposed to perform depending upon his knowledge and skill, but are they really contributing to the team performance or not? Some of them who might be isolated, some of them formed groups within the team, right. So, these kind of challenges are faced by the team, and if that is so, it would be very difficult to assess the individual contribution. Okay. So, because there are the contributions are varied from one individual to another individual, but when it comes to reward or getting credit for performance, everybody is going to get team performance. Then another issue is related to how we are going to balance individual performance and team performance, right. How much I am supposed to contribute to the team. Okay. So, you have to see and equally decide that when you are going to form a team, that you also decide that who is going to do what are the roles and responsibilities of each and every individual, and the way he is going to contribute to the team performance. If it is not defined properly, okay, depending upon the norms and values that is set by the team itself, then that could be a problem, right. And then you should develop measures that for individual performance as well as team performance within the team, right. So, that it would be ideal to see that how individuals are contributing to achieve the performance of the team, and how the team as such as a whole has been able to meet its targets and goals, right. So, the 3 issues here is that how we are going to identify the extent to which individual is going to contribute, how we are going to measure his contribution, okay, and you are also going to see develop measures and standards in terms of measuring the performance of individual as well as team for the performance. Now, it all depends upon 2 factors, okay, that what kind of teams we are going to have. Now, if you look at team, there could be different kind of teams working in the organization. There could be groups or teams or service teams to start with, Then you have project teams, okay. And finally, you might be having teams which are networked with each other, but they might not be face to face connected with each other, but they may be connected through internets and other electronic devices. Okay. So, if you look at this, what happens, the level of hierarchy changes from work or service teams to network teams. Okay. So, you are going to have more taller structure in the first place when you talk about work and service teams, right. Less flexibility is available. When you move to project teams, flexibility is more, right. And when we are talking about network teams, it is more horizontal in its structure, because everybody is similarly placed. And this factor is very, very important. This is what we know as configuration, how members are configured, right. Configuration means how they have been structured into roles and relationships. So, we are talking about the structure, okay. Whether the structure is very, very static or it is very, very dynamic. Okay. So, if you have a configuration that is very, very static, you have a standing reporting relationship for the groups and the teams, and you have formed groups and they are going to report to some person, and everybody's role is very well defined, okay, and they are doing their job. Another factor that is taken into consideration is how complex the task is being performed. And when we are talking about task complexity, it depends upon two things, that is whether they are going to perform routine descriptive activities which is well defined as per the roles and responsibilities, or they are going to perform certain jobs, right, which is not routine in nature, which is complex in the sense that it requires different sets of knowledge and skill, okay, and there is no solution. It means that there is no ready made solution that is available for the job, right. So, it all depends upon the knowledge and skill of the individual. Say for example, those who are engaged with creativity and innovation like R&D people. Okay. So, R&D people are going to perform more non-routine job compared to those jobs which are being performed in the departments, like in the production department where you have set schedules, set production systems, set standard processes to perform your activities. So, that is becoming more routine in nature. So, if you look at these two departments, production department and R&D department. So, the level of complexity increases from routine to non-routine, because R&D is involved in something that is more creative and innovative in its approach. So, we have to see that if the task complexity is high, right, and similarly the configuration, the structure is more dynamic in nature, where people keep on changing their places and positions, they are connected distantly, okay. They have a structure which is much more flatter in nature, that is what we call a horizontal structure. So, what happens in this kind of things, if you are thinking about it, you are talking about a team which is going to be much more difficult, right. So, the team working is much more difficult in network teams, because here you requires highest level of cohesiveness among each other, because all members are similarly placed. So, if all members are similarly placed, what will happen? They have to interact, relate, communicate more frequently with each other, right, like in a network team. But in a project team, which are related to doing certain things, we are completing the projects, right. For example, in IT industry, you are giving a project to write a solution for a problem, IT solution, and you have a client who has given you a project and you are going to work for the solution related to IT, right. So, for example, they want to have a ERP system for their recruitment process. So, you have an IT team which is going to work on this project to develop an IT systems for recruitment, right. So, in this case you have formed a project, you have got functional specialist, part of the job is going to be routine, but part of the job is not going to be routine. Okay. So, it is somewhere in between routine and non-routine. Now, the members of the configuration is that some members are going to be there, but some and the construction of the team, the structure of the team here is going to be different, okay, where you are going to have people from different functional areas. But in a work team or a service team, you are going to have people from the same functional areas, right, because they are going to perform routine activities following standard operating processes and fixed job descriptions. So, this changes as you move from work service team to project team to network teams, right, and the level of complexity goes up. So, you are going to work in different type of teams, okay, and the level of complexity and the configuration goes up, it becomes more difficult to manage team performance. So, in the context of if you look at team performance, what are its implications? Its implications are that when you are going to design a performance management system for a team, ensure that what kind of team you are going to have, right. So, if your team is really cohesive and follow certain norms, then it is good. So, you need to ensure the group dynamic related factors like its culture, okay, whether they are heterogeneous, whether you have functional teams or cross functional teams, right. What are the goals and objectives which have been set for the goals. So, you need to take care of all these factors, that is very, very important, right. So, when you are going to design a performance management system for team, you need to identify what kind of team you are going to have. Are you going to have a static team doing standard operating processes, or it is a very dynamic team, okay, which is involved in non-routine activities. Because when it comes to measuring performance, you need to identify that for a non-routine, a dynamic team, what would be the goals and objectives, right. Whether the group is cohesive or not, what kind of culture is there, what kind of norms and values are followed by that particular team, right. So, all this has to be identified depending upon the kind of team that you are going to have, right. For a virtual team, the performance measurement would be different compared to a team which is physically working on a particular project, right. So, you need to take care of these factors like have a very cohesive group, it is very, very important. What I mean to say by cohesiveness is that people interact, communicate more frequently with each other, they understand each other, they try to help each other, they have trust among itself, right, I mean the members. So, if you are going to look into these factors, probably you are going to have a more cohesive team, right. So, if the level of cohesiveness that is required would be less in a work team compared to project team, which where you require moderate level of cohesiveness. When you move up in the hierarchy and when you are going to have what you call virtual teams or network teams, then the level of cohesiveness will go up. So, now if you look at this, it talks about this like you have three kind of teams: work teams in the departments, right, then you have project teams, right, and then you have network teams or virtual teams. Okay. So, structure, need to look at this, you are going to for a more stable structure, more mechanical form of structure is required, less stable, and here you require a more organic structure. When it comes to norms, group norms, yes, low, medium, you require a more high norms, because everybody has to follow the same thing. Then coming to cohesiveness, again here it is low, it is going to be medium, and it is going to be high. How we decide about these things? It depends upon what kind of team you are having, whether you are going to have a work team, or whether you are going to have a project team, or whether you are going to have a network or virtual teams. Okay. So, depending upon the configuration of the team, okay, you are going to decide the design of the team. So, the cohesiveness and this factor is very, very important and related with each other, right. So, and then when it comes to measurement, you have to see that what kind of approach you are going to use. Okay. For individual, you can go for self appraisal. Okay. For group, you can go for multi-method approach, where you are going to use a number of raters, right. For example, all these members of a team could be involved in the assessment of the performance. Their supervisors could be involved, the HR managers could be involved, right. And the measurement has to take place not only on the outcome, but also on the processes which are related to how the team has done the job, right, in terms of its cohesiveness, in terms of its relationship, right, in terms of its interaction, in terms of its communication, related to decision making, problem solving, all these areas are related to the processes. So, they are to be measured on these outcomes as also the results. So, you are going to measure the behavior as well as the results, and see that what type of changes has been brought in by the team in the long term in terms of contribution to the performance of the group or the organization. Moving further, let us see that how we can go about increasing cohesiveness for better performance. right. So, these are very important factors. Okay. Now, if you look at some of these targets like goals, memberships, interaction size, whether members are competing with each other or not, whether it is linked with the reward, where the team is placed, location, and how much time is available for them to perform the job, right. So, these are the target areas, right. Now, if when it comes to about increasing or decreasing cohesiveness, that is very important, because the performance of the organization depends upon this, right. So, you need to ensure that yes, you need to build an agreement, make sure that the group is heterogeneous. It means that people from different functional areas are part of that, right, and everything is restricted within the team. Okay. And if you are going to make a bigger team, then what will happen? That decreases cohesiveness, and if you do not allow team to interact outside the team, that also decreases what you call cohesiveness. So, these factors on these accounts basically are related to what you call, these accounts are related to decreasing cohesiveness, but if there is a better agreement, get agreement, not just build the agreement. So, it means that there is a commitment to the agreement, okay, they are dedicated to it, and you are going to have a team which is more homogeneous in its attitude and approach, not in its functional areas, then it is good. Now, this when you are talking about enhance within the team, it means the team members are frequently interacting and relating with each other, then it is good. Okay. Size, when if you are having bigger size, then it decreases cohesiveness. If you are having smaller size, so ideally we should have a team of 5 to 7 members, which is more cohesive. Now, if you look at reward, if you are going to individually reward based upon their contribution, then it is not desirable. The idea is that since you are measuring team performance, you should reward equally well to everyone who is a part of the team, right. Then where the team is located. If it is isolated from other teams, then it is good, because if it is not isolated, you are going to be part of different members, then your effectiveness goes down. And then duration. Once the job is done, what happens? You disband the team and then you go find the team. But if the same team members of the team keep on working on different projects, then it is going to increase the cohesiveness of the team. So, it is very important to increase cohesiveness for better team performance, and this is the most important factor I can say for building a good team to have effective performance. Another factor which is important is norms, that how norms and cohesiveness is related, right. So, if you have set performance norms or standard norms, okay, then what actually happens? If performance norms and group cohesiveness, if it is to be related, now you see what happens, that if cohesiveness is high and performance norms are positive, then what happens? You create a situation which is more desirable for best performance. So, this you create a best situation for high performance. But if group has not set certain norms for meeting performance, it means that they have not decided about roles and responsibilities, how they will proceed. That is what norms means, the standards and processes through which they are trying to achieve these goals. So, if it is set properly, we can say that yes, it is a positive norm, otherwise it is a negative norm, right. So, if the group cohesiveness is high, right, but performance norms have not been set, then you cannot expect high performance, you can expect moderate to low performance, because you do not know what processes you are going to adopt, what are the set standards that you have, how will you proceed, right. So, you have not defined the way the group is going to behave and achieve the goals and objectives, right. Similarly, if the norms have been set and cohesiveness is less, then you expect moderate performance, right. But if group cohesiveness is very high and group performance have not been set, then you do not expect good performance, right. You create the worst situation, because there is no norm that has been set by the group to follow. In that case, even if the group is very highly cohesive, you do not expect good performance, right. So, it is very important for a group to perform well, and right, that they follow certain norms which has been set by the group itself or the team itself, in terms of processes and systems that they are going to follow to achieve the goals and objectives, and how cohesive the group is. So, based on these two factors, you can see that in this case, in case of high performance, the best situation, you are going to get the best performance, right. Now, since we have been talking about work teams, project teams and network teams. So, what kind of performance management approach is adopted? So, work and service teams, you can go for peer ratings, ongoing measurements can be take place for project teams. But when it comes to network team, basically you are going to see that what kind of competencies are required to work effectively in a network team, and based on that you can measure their performance. Moving further, when we are talking about the processes, okay, we follow more or less same processes which we use for measuring performance in other systems like individual performance. So, you decide about the kind of prerequisites you have. We have already talked about this model. So, we are using the same model, like what are the prerequisites, how we plan the performance of the team, how we execute the team, how we assess the team, and how we review and go for renewal of the performance, right. So, we will use the same model to discuss about the team performance management. So, prerequisites we have already talked about. Make sure that the people in the team understands about what organization is doing, what its vision and mission is there, right. In what way team is going to contribute to strategies and vision and mission of the organization, right. And then they should know, okay, that what are the jobs that has been given to them, what kind of knowledge and skill that would be required for them, and then they should also be clear about these two things, that is task performance and contextual performance, right. Task performance means that what are the duties and responsibilities for the team, then contextual performance, right, the climate, culture, the environment in which they are supposed to perform, right, whether it is supportive or not. If the contextual the environmental factors supporting, they would be able to achieve it. So, make sure that they are well defined roles and responsibilities of the team, and also you have enabled a positive work climate, that is very important, right. Some of the contextual factors, like especially in case of team, is that members communication, how effectively they communicate with each other. So, interpersonal communication is very important. How decision is taken within the team, right. The extent to which people collaborate with each other in a team, right. How the team leadership happens, right. When we are talking about team leadership, this is known as shared leadership, because everybody has to come forward and do certain things based upon his functional expertise, right. Then whether you are able to control yourself or you are trying to dominate within the team. So, these are the factors which provide a context, right. So, we need to take care of these contexts, that is very important. So, we are moving from prerequisites to performance plan. Then at the next stage, we have talked about how we are going to plan the performance, what is expected in terms of results, and also the behavior. So, that need to be defined, what behavior is expected from the team and what are the outcomes, and then what is the development plan, right, for the next cycle. So, developmental objective that is to be achieved. Then you are going to execute the performance. So, in comes to execution, you see what are the responsibilities of the team, like whether they have been able to achieve the goal or not, the extent to which they are committed and dedicated to it, right. And then you have feedback. This feedback is received from each other, all the members from all the members of the team for each other, and then it is also given by the supervisor. Okay. And make sure that this communication is open and transparent, and there is regular communication between the supervisor as well as the team members, right, the coordinator who is coordinating the team, right. And then you are going to conduct regular and realistic peer appraisals among the team members, so that you are able to understand each other very well, the strength and weaknesses of each members. Then the supervisor, who is supposed to be responsible for ensuring that team is doing its work or not, they are going to observe and document the team performance, and they are going to see that how each person is contributing to team performance. So, they are measuring both, right, when it comes to execution, not only the team performance, but the relative contribution of the performance. It is possible only when they have gone for observation, documentation of what everyone has done and contributed, right. And if there is any change in the organization or its requirement, then you have to update it, that okay, no, that we are going to work on this, and the team is responsible for this kind of things. And supervisor is also supposed to be responsible for providing all kind of help, support and resources which would be required for a team to perform effectively. Now, if you look at this, this shows that different stages of the team, how performance could be affected, right. So, you know that we look at different stages of team, and that I am not discussing here, but at the first stage you have not formed a team as, because you come together. Here you set the norms, storm to brainstorm, and then go on setting the norms. So, this is the most critical zone. If you are able to set proper norms and you are cohesive, then your performance is going to be good, otherwise it is not going to be good. Okay. So, it is very, very important that you are able to set norms and you are cohesive, and that increases your team performance, right, and that is why it is very important. And finally, we talk about assessment. So, we need to assess how the team has performed. You can use a number of approaches, multi-method approaches, as I discussed. You go for individual appraisal of each individual, then you can go for peer appraisal, where each individual is going to evaluate the other member of the group, right. Then it could be evaluated by the supervisors. You can ask some outsider also to be a part of the evaluation process. And what are the dimensions against which team is going to be evaluated? Whether the team has been able to meet its targets, how efficient it has been, right, whether they have benefit exceeds cost or not. In terms of output ratio, input ratio, you can check whether the team is efficient effective only meeting the targets or exceeding the targets. That is what we know as efficiency. What are the learning and growth experiences of the team? Because when you are working as a team, you learn from each other, right. So, you also measure the learning and growth experiences, and whether team members are satisfied with the performance of their own performance and also the team performance. So, individual level and team level, that is how you use these metrics to measure the performance in terms of behavior and also the results, right. So, in terms of behavior, how well you have cooperated, communicated, collaborated, participated in the decision making process, right. And then in terms of results, what kind of achievement are the products that you have achieved. Similarly, not only at the individual level, but also at the group level, you are going to do the same thing, right. So, you are going to use these kind of metrics, especially related to individual and team level, and the measurement has to be related with the behavior as well as results both. And finally, you are going to review, right. First, the team meet itself to see how well they have performed, right. Then individual behaviors, how individual behavior has contributed to team performance. So, through self ratings or peer ratings or supervisor ratings, you find out how well each one has performed in the process, right. And finally, you go for renewal and recontracting. Okay. Next time when the team is working, you are going to make certain adjustments to your performance plan, right, including individual performance also. And you are also going to link it with the reward system. So, make sure that everybody is equally rewarded, okay. It is visible, it is done immediately or given immediately, okay. And if they are not able to perform well, it is taken back, right. It is reversible also, because if team has not been able to meet its objectives, then you can take certain administrative decisions, right. And make sure that it is properly linked and appropriately linked with the reward system. That is very, very important, okay. In some cases, if somebody has done contributed more, you can go for variable reward. It means those members who have contributed better, they could be proportionately rewarded, but then you have to justify and identify how each member has contributed in terms of their relative performance, because if you want to individually say promote or reward people in a team, then you must know how each one has contributed. Thank you very much.